Welcome back, Mando.
Oh, ho, ho, ho. Happy New Year, Bucketheads. Mevar Tagar. Welcome to our 292nd Trash Crab tackling episode of Mandovision. I'm your host, Narguy Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Hope you're reaching out to us on the socials. We're at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. We're at Mandovision on Blue Sky. Email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com, and make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Bucketheads, we're back again, a little late from the holidays. My apologies on that, but hopefully next week we get things back on track for our final 2 episodes of the season. And I'm fired up for them. I really enjoyed this episode of the show quite a bit, just like last week's, picking up where we left off. And finally, we get the KB backstory. It's sort of. We don't get all of it, but we get more information about this character that we didn't have prior to now, where we were sort of guessing and wondering and waiting for the episode that would allow KB to step up a little bit, to kind of take some of the spotlight and get to know who she is better. And it happened, and I was delighted by it. A lot of good stuff in the episode. Very entertaining, very enjoyable. Not one, but 2 big action set pieces in the episode, and even technically 3 if you want to get into the nitty gritty of it all. But a lot of going on in the episode. We're setting the stage for the big finale here. Everything's coming together. Everything's coming to a head, and this is the episode that gets everything into motion for a confrontation on or above At-Aten, and I cannot wait for us to see what they do next. So, yes, I am in for a penny, in for a pound on the show, but enjoying it immensely. This wasn't sort of like the forced obligation of some of the other shows where I had a lot more negative things to share with everybody. But this show, it's striking all the right chords. It has a wonderful balance of approachable kid stuff, but still adult enough. Funny action, humory stuff. It's really well balanced out, and I'm digging it a lot. So I cannot wait to talk to you about this one today. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and get our episode particulars out of the way for this episode. All right, let's go ahead and do it. All right, Skeleton Crew. Excuse me. You know what? Star Wars Skeleton Crew Season 1, Episode 6. 0 Friends Again. Released on the Disney Plus on 12/31/2024. Not a fan of these holiday releases, FYI. I know Disney doesn't care, but it bums me out. This episode, once again, written by Myung-Jo Wesner, who wrote last week's episode as well, so it makes sense that it would kind of continue on. A lot of the picking up those pieces so seamlessly. And this episode, directed by the one, the only Bryce Dallas Howard. All right, friends, it's time to get into the episode, and you know what that means. You know what time it is. It's time. Strap on your buckets, and let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off. You're going to have to relocate the covert. This is the way. This is the way.
So, something a little different with this show. I don't normally watch the recaps, but what I have found, I've watched the recaps twice on this show. Not intentionally, just sort of like I hit the button and then I was looking at my phone and it just played. But they definitely are doing these recaps and giving you information that you need to remember for this episode. Specifically, the emergency hull demolition sequencer. It's the first thing in the recap. So you know what that does? In your brain, you say, this is information that I need for this episode because they are going to do something with the emergency hull demolition sequencer. And sure enough, we do. But we don't. We'll get into that later. But it is interesting to note how they sort of curate these recaps in such a way that like it to bring up information that you need. Not, I feel like a lot of times you get a recap, you just kind of get like the last episode in summary. This one feels like very thought out and be like, hey, here's something we told you a few episodes ago. Here's a reminder of said thing. And that's exactly what happens. And again, we're picking up from last week, but guess what we still don't see? We heard it, but we don't see it. That lightsaber being ignited by Jod. And I think that's an important thing to note for this show because, again, it's not Jedi-centric. It's not that kind of Star Wars show. So, I mean, don't be too surprised if we don't see the lightsaber again. But I think I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't see the lightsaber because it does feature prominently in Jod's capture, I suppose is the best word, by the pirates as it falls from his pocket and it catches someone's eye. But something just interesting to note. Let's start with at the beginning. The kids going down a giant slide. I mean, this is 80s movies history right here, you know, where I think all of us at some point, if you're in my age bracket, really wanted to go down a chute into a giant slide. We hoped that there was trapdoors with giant slides everywhere we looked in our childhood, and very rarely was one ever found, especially for me in my childhood. Now, again, you know, the best thing you can think of now is like when you go to the water park. But these kids, they're screaming down this chute. They fly out. Luckily, it leads just to the outside, the weather off of Skull Ridge Mountain. They're not going into any boiling pits of acid or anything. No sharp pits of spikes. Nothing full of flesh-eating creatures. Nothing that diabolical. They just go outside. They're in the elements. And not a great spot to be in because their ship is back on top of Skull Ridge Mountain. Jod's inside of Skull Ridge Mountain, getting away with his new captaincy of the Onyx Cinder and all the treasure in Tech in Jack Renaud's treasury. And the kids are, you know, they're stung by the betrayal, right? Again, Fern for sure didn't trust Jod, but the actions that occurred in the last episode in the treasure room have thrown them all for a loop. And, you know, for the first time in a little while now, they really feel like helpless children. And I think that throws the dynamic of each of the characters off a little bit. And it leads to some conflict. You know, Fern is going to be like, all right, we got time to climb. Let's go climb. We got to go back up there and get our ship. And Wim wants to follow the trash crabs because that plan seems to make a lot of sense to him. I don't know why. I'm not sure why he's so convinced that following the crabs will lead him to somebody who can help them. But he believes it, and I guess that's enough. And it leads to conflict between Fern and KB. KB, who's been sort of the loyal sidekick to Fern throughout these first 6 episodes. And now she pushes back. And I'm not an expert on... Well, you know what? We're going to table that. Put a pin in it. But I like that finally KB pushes back and asserts a little personality over for herself here and tells Fern, like, I'm not doing this. I don't like it. Not for me. Now, again, a little footnote here because we're going to have to talk about it. But KB has not been happy on this planet. She talked about the moisture and how that's bad for her augments. And, you know, we speculated back in episode 2 that there was more to KB situation than we've been led to believe, but we didn't know the significance of all of it. There's a line in the second episode when the parents are freaking out at Fern's mother's house, where KB's parents talk about life monitoring, and how they can't do that with her off world. Well, now we know that there's more to it than that because KB's augments are life-saving. They're life-preserving. So that was something I was curious about, but we didn't know, so I didn't want to speculate. But yeah, now we know why she was so fearful of going down by the spas in the last episode. The corrosion, again, as I said in the last episode. But was it just because she was worried about the augments being damaged, or was it because like she was worried about the augments being damaged and then her dying from that said damage. So I don't know. I played it sort of cautiously as far as what I was going to infer from that. But it's nice to know that there's more to the augments, that they are life-saving, and that they are, it changes KB's perceptions of herself, as a differently abled person. And while it's nice that Fern believes she can do all these things, KB has to recognize that she has limits, and she has to be able to express that. And I was going to put a pin in it, and I kept talking anyways. So we will probably touch on it again at later on in our recap here. I want to shift to Jod now. I want to go back to the top of Skull Ridge Mountain, because I really liked Jod's entrance as he's coming out of the sewer, out of like that weird kind of manhole kind of thing, and he's just covered in treasure from head to toe. And the first people that he sees are the people of the spa, of the hotel, of the resort. And he's very excited. He's very joyful. He's back to be on top. He's got all the loot on him, and he feels like he's won, right? Like he's got SN33. He's gonna go up there, get the Onyx Cinder, and they're gonna go to Ad-Aden. He's gonna go to the Old Republic Mint, and Jod wins the day, right? Even though he had to betray those kids to do it, those kids who took him in, helped him in his time of need. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that the kids were a big part of his escape from Port Borgo. He just turned his back on him. But then when he turns his back on the hotel people, who's he see behind him? Oh, all the pirates who were in hot pursuit of him in the last episode before they got to the treasury, and Pocket as well. So that does lead me to wonder who exactly was screaming when he refilled the acid bath in front of the treasury doors. That's what the lair, the entrance to the lair. Who exactly, or was it fake? Was it all fake? Because he sounded kind of fake-ish, I suppose. I don't know. But yeah, it's something I was kind of curious about. I wouldn't. I mean, we could probably fill in the blanks on how maybe the pirates weren't actually in the chamber where the acid fills up and kills everybody. But I mean, there was screaming. I don't know. I guess it's just one of those little details I'm a little curious about. Maybe we'll get an answer to it. Maybe we won't. Who's to say? But yes, these pirates are there. They're going to take him into custody, and they're going to take him back to Brutus for his trial. Doesn't matter that he has all this treasure. They don't believe a word he says. Silvo's burned him in the past. They are worried about being burned again. But I do like when Jod tries to summon SN33, who's also coming up through that little porthole, also covered in loot and treasure. But before he can even get out of the ground to engage, they shoot him and disable him. But all is not lost for the people of Skull Ridge Mountain. These pirates seem to have taken control, but momentarily only, because a couple of X-Wings come in to help save the day, drive the pirates away from the people, the Richie Riches of the resort, which is interesting since Skull Ridge Mountain claims neutrality. So, is the Republic trying to bring Lanupa in to the Republic, or is there some sort of I don't know. I don't know how these things work, and it wasn't explained. But the X-Wings show up, and they start driving the pirates off. Our kids see this. They try to get the X-Wings to see them and help them, but it doesn't to no avail. They're in hot pursuit of those pirates. Really cool scene with the X-Wings, and I do like how they refer to the ships as the ones they saw that Kim called on her observatory moon. So a nice little callback to that episode of the show. So they recognize them, but they don't recognize them at the same time, which is kind of on track with everything that's going on. So it's about this point in the episode when the kids begin to go their separate ways. Fern and KB have their falling out, their disagreement, and she's going to follow Wim, who, again, I don't know why Wim thinks following these trash crabs is a good idea, other than the fact that they're kind of cute, and the way they're talking is fun. And one of them has, we see through the episode, one of them wearing a stormtrooper helmet, one of them has a protocol droid leg on its body. The trash crabs are humorous. I enjoyed them immensely. They sort of reminded me of the seagulls in Finding Nemo. So entertaining in an odd way. But again, why Wim thinks following these cute little trash crabs is the way to go, beyond me. Why are they going to somebody who can help? I don't know. I'm not sure. Wim, again, he's off in fantasy land, maybe thinking that the I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking, honestly. He's thinking things that only a kid can think. And unfortunately, I don't think that way anymore most of the time. But but KB goes with him. So our group dynamic changes here for the first time. Instead of Neil and Wim and KB and Fern, a boys versus girls kind of scenario. Now we're intermingling here a little bit. And as KB goes along with Wim, we find out that KB, a little bit about KB's history. Had an accident. Her augmentations allow her to live, but also like they seem to be a key to like her motor functions, right? Like in some sense. So without maintenance, it's a problem. It becomes a problem. So like since they left Ad-Aden, this has been kind of building and building and building. And it was only a matter of time until something triggered a bit of a breakdown in those augmentations that KB has. And so a lot of it is due to the moisture here on Lanupa that triggers it. And Wim, of all people, because he's so what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Wim has like some selfish qualities about him, but he is still like resolutely positive and believes that like everything's going to work out. So he's now put in a position to where he has to help basically save KB's life. Now she's able to give him enough instruction once she breaks down to the point where she can barely move. She's able to give him enough instruction and information for him to make this sort of like weird like micro fuse that will allow her synaptic functions to continue and her motor functions to re-engage again. And they do it, and it's a great scene because as the two characters are talking back and forth, you see it bringing them together, and Wim getting this confidence in himself while KB begins to open up about herself, and we see her a little less guarded than we have in the past, and so it's a very great moment for those two characters, but for the whole as a whole later on in the episode, when Fern and KB finally reunite with each other and they have their moment with each other. A lot of really great character growth development moments in this episode. Getting to have that understanding about KB and her history, her different abilities, her different ableness. I love the way they handle all of it. I don't feel nearly qualified enough to talk about it on terms without sounding somewhat foolish. But I love the way it was handled. I love the way they talked about these things in a fashion that didn't take any agency away from KB's character. It actually gave her a lot more, a lot stronger voice in the episode, and I thought that was handled really, really well. And I applaud it because I wasn't sure which way we were going to go with this character because, again, the mystery around KB was sort of building. But how much more do we get to know? Obviously there was an accident in her past that left her maybe paralyzed or at least limited motor functions of some sort, because it seems like that's what these augmentations are for. But I am spitballing here a little bit, speculating a little bit. But a great moment for the characters because, again, Wim's confidence grows, KB's willingness to open up to a new friend. And KB is the one who says the line for the episode, 0 friends again. So, about how she's kind of gone along with Fern blindly, and Fern just believes the best in her that she can just do everything that's possible. Like she's not limited, and KB being aware enough to know that she is somewhat limited in some capacity in some things. It's handled really, really well, and I don't want to again speak too much of it and step on my toes and make myself sound foolish. That would be bad. But again, I thought this was addressed really nicely in the episode. Meanwhile, Neil and Fern are trying to climb the mountain, and it's not going great because, in a sense, Neil is somewhat differently abled from Fern, and that's sort of somewhat frustrating for Fern because Neil is having a hard time with the ladder. The rungs on the ladder, not so great for his hands. He's shorter than Fern, so it's taking a little extra time. And Fern sort of has to power through Neil's literal shortcomings on this one because she ties a rope to him and basically begins to sort of pull him up step by step, or at least not. I wouldn't say she's pulling him up, but they are linked in a synchronatic fashion, right? They're synchronized climbing at this point, so that Neil can take a step at a time, Fern a step at a time, and then they kind of begin to figure out their ways around things. All right? It's at this point, as they're climbing, as they're making progress finally, that they see the onyx cinders being towed away to the junkyard. The waste disposal that was referenced in last week's episode of the show. And they do something crazy because they jump. And they make it onto the onyx cinder, and Fern's able to figure out a way to circumnavigate and kind of control the ship a little bit, kind of control the tow droids that are moving around. And it's at this point that our friends KB and Wim, who have been following these trash crabs, come across where the trash crabs have been leading them, which is to the king trash crab. And that's impressive. It's an impressive visual, I'm not going to lie. So now the kids are in trouble, but help is on the way as Fern is sort of like jerry-rig piloting the onyx cinder towards them. They all get together. They get away from the king trash crab, and they have the reunion moment. And KB's able to be honest with Fern, and Fern is able to be honest with KB, and they reconnect and they hug it out, and they're besties once again. And it's wonderful and touching and lovely. And again, I love the way it was handled. Really, really well done. And of course, Wim and Neil are back together again too, which is also very fun. But the onyx cinders kind of crash over in this trashy area. There's a giant incinerator droid there to go chomp on the ship. They have to go back, and now they have to save their ship and get it the heck out of there before they have no way off of Lanupa. It gets intense. So the kids engage in the ship, and now, again, everything's kind of out in the open now with all the kids. They are able to they have sort of bounced back from the betrayal of Jod. They have reforged their bonds of friendship by being with each other, changing that dynamic around. Fern and Neil now have a better bond with each other, and Wim and KB now have a better bond with each other. So when it comes time for them to engage with the ship, it's go time. Now I'm going to put a pin in that right here, because we got to go back to where Jod is. Jod, with the pirates, on his trial, sentenced to be spaced out the airlock. It's not looking good for him, but he gets a chance to say his piece, to rebuke the things that have been said about him. And Jod uses his time allotted to go on a massive sales pitch, to perpetrate another con against the pirate that's he's already wronged. And spin a yarn about At-Aten and the Mint and how they would have all the old Republic credits in the world, in the galaxy, if they were to follow him to At-Aten. He links his name with Tak Renod's to help instill even more confidence that he knows what he's talking about, that he has the key to get to At-Aten. And, again, he's conning these pirates. He walks up to them individually, pretends like he's their friend. He's not their friend. They're not his friend. But he tells them, hey, you know what? If you had all this money, you could do all these things because you're great. And he does that to a bunch of different ones. And it's again, con man, car salesman, whatever you want to break it down, he is selling himself and what he has to these pirates. And again, they're pirates. They're drawn by treasure. So they're going to give him a chance. Brutus reluctantly agrees that they're going to go to At-Aten, and because Jod says he has the coordinates, so they're going to go, right? And they're going to see if this treasure's there. But Brutus still seems very keyed up to kill Jod/Silvo if the opportunity arises. And I loved the very sort of haunting Tak Renod nursery rhyme / hymn/sea shanty. I thought it was excellent. Really big fan of it. Good stuff. So now the pirates with Jod are going to be headed to At-Aten. Meanwhile, back on Lanupa, as the kids are engaged in their struggle with the incinerator droid, this is when old things are called back into play. And the kids don't know what to do. Wim's in the turret firing. The droid is too indestructible, too invincible, I think is what he says exactly, for the blasters to be doing any significant damage to the incinerator droid. And all seems lost, except for this giant glowing button. And what have we been told throughout the series so far? Don't touch anything. Don't press buttons. Don't push anything. And despite the fact that they remember very clearly SN33 saying never push that button, they're out of options. The hull demolition sequencer is the key to everything. And so they push the button, and explosives sound off around the outside of the Onyx Cinder as hull plating is blasted away. And we find out that a bulk of what we believe to be the Onyx Cinder was just decoration, was just disguise for the real, sleeker, leaner, meaner Onyx Cinder that breaks away from the incinerator droid at the last moment, of course. And our heroes are now able to return home because guess what? KB has the data in her, thanks to her augmentations, has the coordinates to At-Aten. So now the kids can rocket home as well. So we are on a collision course. These two forces, the kids in the Onyx Cinder versus Jod and the pirates, rushing back to At-Aten for very different purposes. But everything comes together in next week's episode and the episode after that. And we still have many questions to get answered. And I cannot wait to see what happens next. This is another 9 buckets in this episode. It's so good. And I want to talk a little bit about the episode title because, it is KB that says the line that if she were to not have Fern, she would have no friends at all. 0 friends again, as it was before Fern. And while she is the one who says it about herself, the person with 0 friends again is Jod. Let's be perfectly honest. Let's be blunt about it. He has betrayed yet again, which seems to be his calling card. This is why he has so many names, so many aliases, so many burned bridges in his past, because he uses people. He uses them, burns them up, blows up the bridge on the way behind him. And he's doing it again with the pirates. And maybe this time it'll finally cost him his life. But think about what he sacrificed. A group of kids who, most of them, seem to believe in him, and have confidence in him. And, maybe they weren't entirely all the way necessarily friendly with him. Again, Fern, big doubter in Jod. But the closest thing Jod's probably had to actual friends in quite some time was these kids who had put a lot of stock and faith and hope in him to get them back to At-Aten. And he, again, like he does, he burns them. He turns on them. He blows that up. But will the kids save him again and maybe turn him again? I don't know. There's a lightsaber. We still got to see what happens with that. There's the pirates. There is the mysterious supervisor on At-Aten. What's going to happen? The fallout's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see what's next. Do we get Kim back? Is there more from the observatory? How will the New Republic react when they find this long hidden world? There's so much left to tell in this story, and I'm so excited for it. And again, 9 big buckets. And I can't wait to see more of the Onyx Cinder, the real Onyx Cinder in action. Again, I'm really excited about that ship moving forward. Cannot wait. All right, Bucketheads. I think that's going to do it for us. We're going to wrap this puppy up. And again, I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the Mando Vision podcast all of last year in 2024. And I hope you guys are all here for the best year ever for the show, 2025. This is the Mando Vision podcast, and I am your host, Nargai Tom. Thank you for checking out our small independent Star Wars podcast and supporting it for all these years. Reach us out. Reach out to us on the socials at Mando_Vision, Twitter, Instagram. Blue Sky is just Mando Vision. Find me there. Email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. If possible or so inclined, sweet 5-star reviews. They really help us stand out and not get lost in the shuffle. Bucketheads, go out there, be great Star Wars fans. Let's get the new year off right. Let's get people watching Skeleton Crew. Let's get them fired up. And then we're going to go and watch some Andor Season 2. It's going to be a great year for Star Wars. I'm fired up. Let's do this, my friends. All right, we'll be back next week. A little bit more timely because I should be able to do it. But yes, next week on time for our Star Wars Skeleton Crew's Episode 7 review. Make sure you're here for it. We'll be back very, very soon. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And again, Happy New Year, Bucketheads. Remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.